Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Erin Polaschek, a reconstructive movement trainer, yoga instructor, and body worker at Les Mills. In this episode, I ask Erin what the connection is between someone's emotional state and their physical body and posture, if our ability to stretch and open up physically relates to our mind's ability to stretch and open up, what some common physical issues people with office jobs face and how to combat them, how to prevent injury when working out, adrenaline fatigue, gut health, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello, Erin. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
Yay!
Thank you so much for being here.
A pleasure to be invited. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. First question I have for you is, what elevates your soul?
I think that's such a good question. And when you ask it, a million things come to mind, but almost in looking for an answer to the question, I love to dance, probably first and foremost.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm teaching people more how to look after themselves without getting too hands-on. So I do a combination of body work and movement.
Yeah.
And it's also a combination of goals happening there. So the combination of body work and movement and food, nutrition, internal kind of messing with supplements and stuff to see if we can get better results.
Yeah.
So a holistic approach. And we also look a little mentally at what's going on, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a bit of an interesting occurrence on the planet where I've learned a few things about how the body fuses together and becomes this combination of fields.
Yeah.
Physical, internal physical, external physical, and then mental interacting with those physical fields, and how you can get better results with them.
Yeah.
In saying that, I do think that there are things that are missed out in the medical world, and that's why we need to fuse them together. To answer your question, basically what I do is usually I manipulate the body and then teach people movement to hold the work that I do so that we can progress beyond fixing the same thing over and over again. That to me is dull, and it's certainly not what I've done with my own body. I've continually used different therapists, different physical therapies, mental therapies, food therapies to progress my body along, so that I could become a bit more superhuman and a bit more stable in what my body was doing. Where I run into issue with people and myself is that we as human beings in the society that we live in, as a matter of survival and stress and fear, have become so stuck in our mental pattern that sometimes I can work and work and work on a body and it just won't want to give, or it'll just want to keep going back. Wow. And so a person needs to realize when their own thought processes are getting in their way.
Right.
And we all do it. Some of us are just more stubborn than others.
Yeah.
And some of us just aren't open.
Yeah.
And so I think another vital part of anybody working in my field, or even in your field too, is recognizing when that person doesn't want your help. And that's absolutely their right to choose, and absolutely their liberty in this lifetime to choose not to transcend, not to want to be meditative, not to want to do any of those things.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you like, but you're allowed to choose that. It is a form of selfishness, in my opinion, but everybody's selfish on different levels, and we all have our moments.
Do you find that people's flexibility in their mind is related to their flexibility in their body and their ability for their body to move in different patterns and ways?
Yes and no. in the sense that I couldn't cement it in a certain way. Like, for example, your body is particularly flexible.
Yeah.
And you are a particularly open-minded individual on some levels.
Yes.
Right. And I would definitely say that different rigidities in my body are related to mental blockages.
Right.
So, for example, if I talk about myself, my right hip is related to my right kidney, or my right adrenal, which is attached to my kidney. And they work together. So I don't mind just referring to it as a kidney area.
Yeah.
But that adrenal zone is a huge hormone producer. And it's responsible for producing both cortisol and DHEA. So that's your stress hormone and your repair hormone.
Yeah.
And those two have more than one connection or one link, other than just being both produced in the adrenal glands. They also both need the same bonder to be used or to be utilized in the body. And you can get something called a pregnenolone. I think I'm saying that right. We get to the big words, we start getting a little bit tongue twisted. A pregnenolone snatch or grab, which is when you're so stressed out and so over pushing it that you grab all of that bonder for stress, which means DHEA, your repair, rest, recovery kind of stuff, it just doesn't happen properly. And so this is where we can start to have adrenal issues. Now, why would that have a mental connection? Well, that's clear, isn't it? If you're overstressed, that's going to be reflected in your brain. So if your body is overstressed, your brain is going to be overstressed. That's right. That couldn't be more clear, right? Also, I'm deliberately, in my case, I deliberately produced too much stress hormone. So I was, I'm very alpha in personality. I'm very much the achiever. I was at school trying to achieve everything. When I used to train, before I discovered this sort of new way of training, I was very much about how do I get the fittest, quickest, thinnest, leanest, strongest body every day. And so every day I would get up, I would go for a run no matter how I felt. Every day I would kickbox if that was on the agenda. I would strength train if that was on the agenda. I would throw myself around rings, a pole, whatever it was, if that was on the agenda. There was no compassion in it. There was no consideration for what my body was telling me when I woke up in the morning.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. And so, and I find that the world we live in, very much indicated by how people have responded to being locked in too, they're not good at not pushing. Yeah. When now in a time where the world has an opportunity to go inside and be more meditative and to slow down. And some people are good at that. Some people are. But overall, people have struggled in different ways. Yeah. Because they can't go to a cafe to distract themselves. They can't go to the gym to distract themselves. They can go for a million runs and do it that way and throw some weights around that they've got at home and do that maniacally every day. Yeah. But they're still going to crack doing it because they cannot get away from themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
I think in a way, the way we train sometimes is about getting away from ourselves. Yeah. And I think I did that. And as I did that, I got disconnected from what my body needed, and my body stopped repairing, and it got in a very bad cycle. And you can exhaust your adrenals and deplete them. You can burn them out completely. And that's very, very dangerous. It's very, very, very problematic.
So you've had adrenal fatigue yourself?
Yeah, I've had that. I've struggled with adrenal fatigue since I was 17.
Wow. Still now? Still today?
Today, I would say I still get symptoms of it, physical symptoms, occasionally emotional ones, but mainly the emotional ones are gone.
Yeah.
And then I kept looking for more and more answers to why I was continually getting cystitis issues, like on a weekly basis. And slowly I came to this understanding of adrenal fatigue. Yeah. And then I started treating adrenal fatigue by really heavily dosing on vitamin C's and B's. That was a huge help. Understanding I needed to go to bed before midnight, ideally by 10. Hacking my sleep with various sleep products, tart cherry, something I've got here called Sleep and Recover. This is amazing. So melatonin products, and this is also reishi mushroom and valerian root and extract and all that sort of stuff. This is a Chinese blend by a Chinese herbalist in the States. I use that. I use magnesium. A bathtub changed my life with magnesium salts.
Yeah.
And just getting more into understanding that training should be 80% really in the middle, rehabbing your body, stretching it out, activating little muscles. That should be 80%. Going for slow walks, yoga, massage. And when I say yoga, not the really hard, intense Ashtanga, hot room yoga stuff. No, like rehab, clever flow yoga with breath that's not too stressful on the body. Getting moving but not killing yourself. A light jog, not interval training. That doesn't mean don't do those things. It meant that, like, if I was going to be in that 80% range to rehab myself, if I was going to go high intensity, it would be for a maximum of 10%. And 10% of my time was massage, acupuncture, osteopathic work. I was getting all that done.
Awesome.
So, and it's very much the basis of what I teach. If you're in good form, 60% in that green zone in the middle, 20% in the blue zone, and 20% in the red zone, high intensity.
Right.
One of the biggest mistakes made is spending so much time in this red zone that you end up in a black zone where you're not achieving anything and you're just burning your adrenals. Dangerous. And pointless. And you become an ass.
Quite common, I'm sure.
You're familiar with the gym that I work in, and I think it's a great gym, not knocking the gym. But if you look around and you see the world that we live in, we've perpetuated this idea that the way to get better at something, the way to get what you want is to go harder all the time. Whereas you've got martial artists and MMA fighters in Russia that play and enjoy, and they work at 70% all the time, and they do 10% high intensity and 10% down there in that like real recovery zone. And Russia has more MMA top level fighters than the US. The US has 5. Russia has millions of the damn things. Why? Because they understand this balance of play. Of play and hum and finding your zone. And you see men play a game of football together out on a field. It's very different to throwing them out onto the competitive field. And it's got a lot of benefit.
I can imagine.
But this radial contractility that people are trying to reference when they talk about core training, where you suck inwards, has become somewhat lost. And as a result, we see the breakdown of various different organs. And all of those organs connect to how your brain works, because they connect to your central nervous system, your spine, and your brain. That's your CNS. So I've got nerve bunches or bundles coming out of my spine, connecting into my organs, and they're feeding information back into my spine, spasming in some case into that spine, and shooting up into my brain. And then my brain is starting to think differently from that spasming, and it's sending messages back. And so what you get is this loop or this cycle of thinking or patterning that may not necessarily have started entirely from the brain. It may have come from injury. It may have come from a trauma. So it may also have started in the brain. This becomes very much a chicken and egg discussion. What's important to understand is where you're at now. It's not a blame game. It's understanding that I'm a very stubborn person, and it presents itself as being very defensive, or vice versa. And that can make me rigid and unbending. Also, defensiveness is represented in the body in a couple of ways. One, pelvic positioning, or in my case, very much what's happening in my shoulders and chest region. So my shoulders have a tendency to come forward a little too much. I'm very tight across the pec minor, delt, chest area, which means that I'm protecting my heart. So common areas I need clicking are those ones that are in my mid-thoracic over my heart. So that's not to say I'm not a hardy person, but when I get caught in my ego and I get messed up with my own fear or my own desire, and I get focused on that for whatever reason, or something gets threatened there, I can become a very selfish person. But we see this breakdown, and I'm sure you can too. I can recall things from being a little girl And being nudie Rudy was one. Being teased for being naked. Somehow naked wasn't okay, and I was hiding behind a chair. That was my first understanding, that being naked wasn't okay.
Right.
How does that not lock into my personality? If the first 7 years of your life set your personality, as documented by many, psychoanalysts.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Then how can at 4 years old that not have an impact on me for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I can't transcend it.
Right.
But awareness is definitely going to be part of that whole process.
Yeah.
And certainly the way I relate to my sexuality and my freedom in my sexuality, either too overtly or not enough, might be connected to that. Stomach breakdown, coming back to this midfield or this radial field of contractility, nobody that I've come across who's chronic diseased, and I work with the chronic diseased every day almost, nobody that I've come across that has a chronic disease or that is sick has a healthy gut.
Yeah.
So to me, and I think you'll find there are many other people, this is not new information that I'm sharing here. To me, if you do not look at the health and well-being of your stomach when you're not well, then you are misunderstanding what it is to be diseased. And diseased is really a description of the body not being at ease. And so, of course, we are going to see, I don't love myself, so I hunch my shoulders. Yeah. I don't want you to come at me. I'm not comfortable, so I hunch my shoulders. I'm afraid, I hunch my shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm so into my sexuality that that's the only way I get attention, that my ass sticks so far out the back that that's all you see when I walk into a room.
Right.
And I'm not picking on the Kardashians here, and I'm not necessarily saying that's the case with them. Yeah. But I am saying that is a potential of why someone can literally become a walking bum.
Right.
Because
there's the tilt in the pelvis where your butt kind of sticks out and your stomach's almost forward, then your chest is forward and your butt's out the back. Yeah. Is that the yeah.
And this is why I say, like, we can talk about all the generalizations of why someone might be very forward in the chin. That actually might be complete stubbornness, right?
Right.
Like that, like we've always said that they've got a hard chin, or their jaw is locked tight or whatever, or they're hard headed.
Yeah.
And you can see this like generally like the forehead almost looks bigger and the chin juts out more. And it's like this posture of, I'm stubborn in what I'm saying, and you can't tell me otherwise, right? Yeah. But we can say all of that and we can be very general. But when a child is learning to walk, first of all, we make a mistake and we put them in shoes and socks and booties. Yeah. And we put them in sensory deprivation chambers. And it's really important to understand that your feet and your hands are nodal in these fields of contractility, as is your nose, your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your genitals, and your nipples. They are also nodal in the traditional Chinese acupuncture model.
What do you mean by that?
That means they're at the end of acupuncture lines.
Oh, okay.
So the lines are ending on these sensory information areas. And included in that sensory information, nipples, genitals, feet, and hands. And as a result, any damage that happens to those areas goes straight into your brain, because that is how your body learns in the first place. So all of those things are sensory information systems to your brain, so that your brain can react and feed information back so that your body starts to move in the world. The Chinese describe a child as having no qi, as having no qi. And fully developed qi, coincidentally, at the age of 7.
Yeah, right?
And what have they done from 0 to 7? They have developed the ability to lift their head up off the ground, to roll around, to crawl, to rock back and forth on their hands and feet, to continually arch their back. So first of all, little tip to listeners, if you get lower back problems, walk around barefoot for a minimum of 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
on rough surfaces, not just in your house, that's not enough, on rough natural surfaces. So make yourself a stone garden and watch the news walking back and forth and it'll stomping up and down, right? Go for a walk barefoot, watch where you step, because you're not used to walking barefoot. I stubbed my toe and made it bleed everywhere the first time I did that for many, years. But stimulating your feet also builds better posture. And stimulating your hands too. That's why I use ropes to hang off and ropes to grind into my hands, and I drag my knees across my hands that are pressed onto the floor, and I play with what textures can I get feeding into these sensory information systems at the end of my limb buds, at the end of my arms, at the end of my legs. Because if I've got neck and shoulder issues, guarantee you've got problems in your hands and your wrists. So we have an interesting time with chronic disease right now, where the chronic diseased are in jeopardy, and they know this.
Can you tell the listeners, if they're not sure, what chronic disease means?
Okay. So acute disease is like getting the flu, measles, coronavirus would be acute. It's something that, or getting an infection could be considered chronic also, but it's usually considered acute. And what Western medicine is very good with is dealing with acute disease. So if I go in with measles, they've got a jab for that, right? If I go in with a mass infection, we can throw antibiotics at that. If I get hit by a car, antibiotics are great, right? That's going to fight a whole lot of issues in my body that might occur. Understanding that this idea of disease is from dis-ease, or the conjoining of those two words. So chronic disease is where you're living with something that continually on a day-to-day basis affects your life. And as a general rule, to this day, we haven't really seen them fix it. The only thing Western medicine can do is give you a band-aid of a sort. So arthritis is a chronic disease. It's something that we understand once you have it for life, and it progressively gets worse, and we know how to slow it down a little bit, maybe, if you're lucky. And maybe there's some diet stuff you can do, but doctors generally don't talk about that too much. But there's a lot of discussion in the alternative side and amongst arthritic discussion groups about different things you can cut from your diet. And then also the ones that I've listed, they also come under a topic of autoimmune. So the understanding of autoimmune, so Alzheimer's would be chronic disease, all those mental ones as well, where the brain is being eaten at, MS, multiple sclerosis, where your nerves are being broken down and attacked. All of those chronic diseases can be potentially described as an immune dysfunction disorder. If you correct the immune system and make it work better and fix the stomach, people go into remission. And I can't claim that that's true. So I'm going to say I'm not. But if you have an autoimmune disorder or a chronic disease, as I do, and my chronic disease is my adrenal fatigue, then you can work with the balance of your stomach, the balance of your hormones, which is on a simplistic level, looking at stress and DHEA, but there are many hormones and there are many different hormone systems in your body, including your thyroid, for example. And if I look to balance all of that stuff as best I can with good nutrition, and I repair my stomach, maybe my immune system doesn't attack me or isn't overactive. And the problem with taking an immune suppressant is it opens me up to everything else. And so we're in a situation where they're saying that there's this virus out there that's killing people who are immune deaf, who have an immune issue. Right? So they already have chronic disease. And when you have chronic disease, your immune system clearly isn't doing its job. Right? Why is your immune system not doing its job? In my opinion, and the opinion of a few others that work in the kind of field that I do, to start with, because your stomach has been jeopardized through many, many reasons. And that also is going to affect how you think, right?
That's what's true. Like, does the chicken or the egg come first? It's like, our thoughts are related to our gut, and our gut's related to our mental health as well. Yeah.
That's right. And there are some really great books out there called like My Thinking Stomach and stuff like that. Like my gut brain connection and all these sort of things. And they're really worth a read. Like if you're interested in this stuff, go educate yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you can listen to freaks like me and go, actually that sounds right, or actually she doesn't know what she's talking about according to what I've read and what I feel. Exactly. But go read, for God's sake. Like if you've got problems, the best thing I can recommend is go find a weirdo like me, see if this stuff starts to work for you. Yeah. But also be honest with yourself about whether you're really giving it a go or whether you're tripping yourself up.
Yeah.
And don't be mean to yourself just because you're getting in your own way. That's kind of part of the trick of this whole thing. Once the brain is involved with the gut and the posture and the tension in the body, you've got to start unpicking it. And as you unpick it, stuff is going to flare up.
Yeah. We're running out of time. The only other question that I wanted to ask you on is for people who are sitting down all day and working office jobs, what common things arise in their body in terms of like a sore lower back or stiffness in the neck? And what kind of things would you recommend? What advice would you give to people who have jobs that require them to sit at a desk all day? What could they do that would benefit their bodies?
On my YouTube channel and pick up a few free pointers there. Get a pot of, like, from the very small minor things that you can do. A brain that is sitting at a desk for more than an hour is starting to shut down. If you want to be an efficient, productive worker, you must move your body in order to keep your brain going.
Yeah.
So the minimum requirement there is stand up and go for a walk every hour. It only has to be a minute and sit back down again. It's enough to stimulate your blood flow to get things pumping.
Right.
When it comes to neck and lower back and all that sort of stuff, part of that question, which I actually think I saw it in the written part, was also about injury. Going to the gym first thing in the morning and last thing at night and sitting at your desk for 8 hours a day and not getting up and moving.
Yeah.
And also not being a bit more clever about the movements that you do in those 8 hours is a recipe for injury. And there are physios out there that have designed different desks because they were sick of seeing desk injuries from sitting jobs. My friend who designed the Limber desk, I have forgotten his last name, but Limber desk, it's New Zealand designed. He's a physio. He was helping run different physio centers here, and he just felt terrible for people that were stuck sitting.
Yeah.
And he was like, this desk setup that we have, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So his desk is great, and that's an expensive part solution to the problem. But I also think I would like to see the ability to hang or get your arms above your head.
Yeah.
Is really important. If you can get your arms above your head, even walk them up the wall, hang onto a door frame, something, anything.
Yeah.
Hang a rope in your office, get a hanging bar. You can get a $12 one from Kmart, which I have in my house. Right. Every time you walk under it, hang off it for 10, 20 seconds. Right. Don't have to put all your weight into it. Just get your arms above your head. If you've got a shoulder injury, get your arms above your head.
Yeah.
Don't put any weight on them. That would be great.
Yeah.
With regards to how you sit, one of the biggest problems we have in the gym is that we, in the 80s, designed machines, probably the 70s too, designed machines to fit around the fact that we're stuck sitting all day. Thank you, Industrial Revolution, right? So instead of us redesigning the body when we got to the gym by stretching the hip flexors, stretching the quads, activating the hamstrings, loosening off the hips that have tightened and gathered, and remember this adjusting economical thing the body does when it goes, oh, you don't need this fabric, we'll adjust and gather it in and lengthen out the hamstrings and all that sort of stuff. Instead of adjusting the body back and re-stimulating it to work well and opening the chest and opening the shoulders and practicing trying to get some opening through the chest by taking our arms behind us. Yeah. We just adjusted everything and built chairs around the lat pull down machine. Even the hamstring machine has a rise in it for this buckled posture. Yeah. Because people can't keep their hips down because they don't have hamstring activation in that range. So you want to look at things like a lunge stretch, a couch stretch, any of the dragon series or lizard series from yoga. These are great things. And if you did one of these every time you stood up from your desk, this would be a different body when you went to the gym. This would be a less likely to injure body. Minimum 20 minutes a day walk on stones, minimum or rough surfaces, and minimum 20 minutes a day sit on the floor. Ideally, live on the floor, work on the floor, get up and down off the ground. This lowers blood pressure. This tunes your pulsative and your peristaltic, which is what makes you go to the bathroom, your peristaltic system. This is going to help that gut. So a lot of the breakdown and the stress we see in the body is from this shitty sitting posture that we have, or this bad sitting posture. And so anything you can do to work it out of your body throughout your day, at the end of your day, and build strength into your system cleverly without smashing yourself in a class is a good idea. The smashing yourself in a class is extra. That's something you do when your body is tuned in. Tune the damn thing in first. Find your pump, right?
Perfect. Great. I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Cool.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Bye. If you like this episode and are enjoying the Elevate Your Soul podcast, please help support me by sharing it with somebody you know who could benefit from this episode or from this podcast by copying and pasting the link. I would also love it if you could write me a review on whatever app you're listening to this on. It really helps get this information and content out there. And if you'd like to help out the podcast even more by helping me get the resources I need and keeping it ad-free, please support me through my Patreon website at patreon.com/elevateyoursoul. That's patreon.com/elevateyoursoul. Any support is greatly appreciated.